time that we are in, many of us are seeing it for ourselves, which is called insight. And that's what I love better than information is insight. We could talk all day, but do you really see it for yourself? That's what is most important, and that you're not just sitting in this university, you listening, and then you're not implementing. I mean, you can't implement everything overnight. We all on different levels. We all at different spaces in our spiritual journey. Some of us are a little farther along than others. Some of us are just starting. It don't matter how far along you are, or it don't matter if you just started yesterday. The point is that we all on the journey. All right, we on the journey, and we on it together. It's unity, togetherness. We going back to nature. We going back to how it was anciently. You heard the music I was playing? That's our ancient music. All right, at that point we was in together, one with nature. We had a deep connection to nature. That's what we getting back to. We got to get back to talking to the bees and the insects and the animals, and the elements, and that's where we going. The planet is rising in frequency, so we in a good place right now. All right, we in a great place right now. To the blue crystal babies, those in the university 21 and under, we appreciate y'all deeply. Very, very deeply. Because it's always gonna be about the youth. It's gonna always be about, because y'all represent. Y'all at the end of our generation, but y'all ushering in a whole new generation. So we making it. We are the generation, meaning those born between the ages of 0 right now, or months old, all the way up to 72. All right, we are the ones that's ushering in change. We are the chosen ones. All right, even those of us who aren't awoken yet, they were chosen, but then some of us come down here and because we don't have high dark matter energy levels like others, after they put that nanobiotechnology in us via injection as kids, some of us never recover from that. So that's what you got to understand too. If you were able to recover from that and become woke and make things happen, even gain any form of success in this matrix, because you wasn't designed to, that just means you have, like I always say, you have high dark matter energy levels. All right, so you give yourself a round of applause for that. You clap yourself up, pat yourself on the back, and you stay humble. You stay humble, and you keep teaching. You like I say, every room is different. When y'all walk in this room, y'all students. But guess what? Sometimes when y'all walk in this room, y'all still the teacher. I'm learning from y'all as well. You walk in other rooms, you might strictly be the teacher. All right, so that's the duality. These paradigms or realities, we should call them, are, they are all built around numbers and possibilities, meaning that there's no limit to nothing is definite. You know what I'm saying? Everything is infinite, so it can always change based upon the user. We are the users, because we are the creators of the game. As long as you remember that, you're going to always be ahead, and we where you need to be, especially as we move deep into this spiritual warfare. All right? So today, right, I want to talk about Henry Ford. I have him pulled up on Wikipedia. If you want to read along, like the pastor used to do your ass, feel free to read along, the congregation. Goddamn it, your ass, pull your Bible out. All right, we don't do no Bibles in here. We ain't got to pull no Bible out, but you can pull your tablet out, your iPad, an extra phone if you have it, if you want to, just to keep up with what's going on. Or you could just sit right there and listen, because that's what you enrolled for you not to do shit but sit there and listen and learn. So you don't have to do no extracurricular activities, you know what I'm saying? If you don't want to, but for those who want to keep up with what I'm saying, All right, so we're going to read about Henry Ford. Now, like I said, we got a lot of blue crystal babies in here, so y'all might just know about Ford, the car. But yes, the car Ford, like Ford Focus and the other different cars that Ford is known for. They got a bunch of famous cars. Let's see. Let's see. They got the Mustang. All right, that's one of their most popular cars. It's like the Mustang. All right, but then they got the Fiesta, the Model Ts, the Taurus, the Explorers, you know, the Explorer SUVs. Okay, so all of that comes from Ford, the company. All right, and let me go back to Wikipedia. So all of that comes from Ford, the company. Now, every company has a luxury car. So Ford's luxury car is the Lincoln. Okay, Lincoln is under Ford. Okay, so you do your Lincoln Town Car, the Lincoln Navigator. Ford, that's that's the luxury model of Ford. All right, so what you got to know is about Ford was invented or founded by a human being named Henry Ford, who was actually a reptilian posing as a human being. All right. Well, I mean, not reptilian. He was a Pleiadian. All right. So Henry Ford was a Pleiadian, and he's actually still here on the planet right now under disguise of he was just formerly going by Prince Andrew. Okay. Now, I'm gonna dive deeper into that in a second. All right, I want to pull something up. All right, so, all right, let me pull something up. All right, so we back on Wikipedia. So before we dive deep into Henry Ford, let's just read a little bit about what they sent on Wikipedia. I'm not gonna read too much. I just want to give y'all a quick little synopsis, and then we gonna go clean in to what's really going on with them, because you know they're not gonna never tell you the real on Wikipedia and Google. But I just want to give you a synopsis, quick little synopsis of who he's supposed to be. All right, Henry Ford, born July 30th, 1863, passed away April 7th, 1947. He was an American industrialist, business magnate, and founder of the Ford Motor Company. Okay, like I was telling you. He is also the chief developer of the assembly line technique of mass production. All right. So when I used to work at jobs, I love working on assembly lines because I like working with my hands. So for those who don't know what the assembly lines is, like the blue crystal babies, those 21 and under. Whenever you work at a factory, you have an assembly line where it's a bunch of people working in there and they're working to get the products created. These are the people that's boxing the products, taping the products, weighing the products, bagging the products. You know, basically what a mass production takes place at, all companies have an assembly line, okay? So it's normally filled with with men and women, or gods and goddesses, either or. You know what I'm saying? I used to love working on an assembly line when I worked at Franklin Fueling Systems in Madison, Wisconsin. We had an assembly line there, and it was dope. You know what I'm saying? So this back when I was working in the Matrix, before I started working for myself. But anyway, the creator of this assembly line whole technique is Henry Ford, or so they say. All right. Now, by creating the first automobile that middle class Americans could afford, all right. So basically, he converted the automobile from an expensive curiosity into an accessible convenience that profoundly impacted the landscape of the 20th century. So this is what they're telling you on Wikipedia about him, okay? So basically, they're saying like he's the founding father of the production line, the assembly lines. All right. He created the Ford Motor Company. All right. And by him he created the first car that was affordable for the masses. All right. So basically, he made cars more popular with that because they had cars out then, but very few could afford them. All right. All right. So let's keep going on what they say about him real quick. His introduction of the Ford T model automobile revolutionized transportation and American industry. All right. As the Ford Motor Company owner, he became one of the richest and best known people in the world. He is credited with Fordism, all right, which is the mass production of inexpensive goods coupled with high wages for workers. All right, so Fordism is what you see today. When motherfuckers going to work, most people trying to get a high wage. And the higher the wage, the more work that company going to expect you to do, or the more proficient they're going to expect you to be at your job, right? Well, he is the creator of that whole ideology and that whole mindset, okay? Mm-hmm. Ford had a global vision with consumerism as the key to peace. So consumerism is how these Fortune 500 companies look at you, your family, me, and my family. They don't see people. They don't see human beings and they don't see gods and goddesses. They see a bunch of fucking sheeps and consumers. All right. And how do we consume? We consume through the TV. We consume through radio. We consume through watching the movies. We consume through going to the sports games. We consume through participating in buying video games. We consume when we wearing the cloth. We consume when we eating. We consume a lot of different ways. That's all consumerism. So this is why Xbox is able to market shit to us and know we're going to buy it because we are the consumers. This is why any beauty line products the goddesses wear, you are just a consumer to the owner of that product. All right. So, and anybody that goes into business understands that too. When you have your own business, you know that, okay, you have a market, but then you have consumers. Okay. You have to know your market and you have to know who's going to consume whatever product it is that you have. If you put the wrong product, you have a good product, but if you place it in the wrong market, then nobody's going to consume it. So now you just make this $10,000 investment into this company or this dream you got, or this $2,000 investment or $300, $400, $500 investment, whatever you invest in, and you turn around and you get nothing back from that because you had a good product, but you placed it in the wrong market. So the market you placed it in doesn't have any consumers that are eager to purchase or consume your product. So now your business crashed. All right. So that's what consumerism is. All right. But he was the one who targeted that ideology. All right. His intense commitment to systematically lowering costs resulted in many technical and business innovations, including a franchise system that put dealerships throughout North America and major cities on 6 continents. Ford left most of his vast wealth to the Ford Foundation and arranged for his family to permanently control it. All right, so Ford was also widely known for his pacifism during the first years of World War I and for promoting anti-Semitic content, including the protocols of the Elders of Zion throughout his newspaper, the Dearborn Independent, and the book International Jew. Now, the protocols of the Elders of Zion, that's a whole different subject, a whole different topic for a whole different life because it's very long and very deep. But we'll talk about it a little bit. We're going to touch upon it, and we're going to touch up on why he was with it. All right. All right. So anti-Semitic. What are the Semites? All right. The Semites are like anybody that's basically a human being stock. So let me click on anti-Semitic for you to give you a better breakdown. All right. So check it out. The Semitic people. All right. For example, Hitler would have been deemed anti-Semitic with what he was doing in the Holocaust. All right. So anybody that speaks out against the human being stock, all right, who are considered the Semites or the Semitic people, all right, they are deemed anti-Semitic. Malcolm X was deemed anti-Semitic. Okay. So I'm just letting you know that this is bullshit when they saying that he was attacked for promoting anti-Semitic content. All right. So that's really just a play on your brain to confuse the fuck out of you more. All right. I'm going to break all this down. You know, I'm going to get deep into it. I got y'all. I'm just reading off what they sent about him real quick. All right. All right. All right. So let's get to it. All right. So basically, we know that Henry Ford was a human being that created the Ford Motor Company. All right. And that he was personally responsible for the work week. All right. So the way we work today, the way individuals work, how you work 5 days a week and you get 2 off days and you work 40-hour weeks. Well, he created that whole mindset. Okay. Now, in Google, they tell you on Wikipedia, in addition to raising his workers' wages, Ford also introduced a new reduced work week in 1926. The decision was made in 1922 when Ford and his co-worker described it as a 6 8-hour days given a 48-hour work week. So that, and originally in 1922, when they first started hiring major employees for these factories that was building, with Ford being one of the leading producers of these factories, it was required for people to work 6 days a week, 8 hours a day. All right. But in 1926, Ford changed it to 5 8-hour days, making it a 40-hour work week. Okay. The program apparently started with Saturdays being designated as a work day before becoming a day off sometime later. On May 1st, 1926, The Ford Motor Company's factory workers switched to a 5-day, 40-hour work week, with the company's office workers making the transition the following August. All right? Now let's see why. They say Ford had decided to boost productivity, as workers were expected to put more effort into their work in exchange for more leisure time. So what does that mean? Basically, originally, they required you to work more hours. All right? Originally, slaves were required to work sun up to sundown. But when they started creating these factories, they was already pushing us out of chain slavery, and they was pushing us into these new plantations called jobs, which Henry Ford was one of the leading productions in that. All right? All through Detroit, Michigan, and spread out throughout the country. All right? That's why the Midwest to this day has so many factories. You know what I'm saying? There's so many abandoned factories. Like Detroit was a factory town. General Electric and Ford, there were so many companies there. Ohio, India, a lot of these places was like that, and then a lot of these jobs moved out. So that's why it's poverty stricken throughout the Midwest, like it is now in certain cities. All right, but you have to understand that the whole reason Ford did this, the whole reason you work 8 hours a day now is because of Henry Ford. Okay, the whole reason there's a work schedule is because of Henry Ford. All right, because before it was that, he was working sun up to sundown. Even after they freed the slaves, niggas still had to work sun up to sundown just to get some kibbles and bits. All right, so when they wanted us, there was a mind fuck. They was trying to manipulate us to believe, or our ancestors into believing, that it was change. So what better way to bring change than to say, hey, you don't have to go to work, but it's an option. So a lot of our ancestors started going to these factories. They're not going to tell you on Wikipedia that the majority of people that worked in them factories was black people. They just gonna say workers. Just to make you think it was human beings. Listen, a lot of them human beings didn't know how to fucking work. They was fresh out of slavery. We talking 1922. We was just in physical shackles 40, 33 generations, 4 decades prior. Okay? We 2 decades into the 20th century, 1922. So 30 years before that, niggas was in shackles. So majority of these human beings, they didn't know how to work, and they didn't like work. So when they did try to come into the factories, guess who was outworking them? We was. Because we was fresh from working sun up to sun motherfucking down. On top of that, we are still the ancient beings. Okay? We are still the ancient beings, naturally. So our life force was used. Now, Henry Ford, he's a smart ass motherfucking honky. That's what I call him. Even though he's a Pleiadian. We're going to get to that. Because what he did was, the reason he came up with a slicker way to enslave us. Oh, you know what? Y'all ain't gotta work sun up to sundown. It's 6 days. He started that. Then he broke it down. You know what? Y'all ain't gotta work 6 days. Y'all ain't gotta work 6 days a week. We gonna just only make it 5. But what happened was, since we knocked 2 days off, a day off, you gonna have to work harder doing those 8 hours. He set up that whole system. All right. Now, most people, like they said, his whole mindset was to produce productivity, or to channel more, or to draw more life force from us, more frequency from us. All right. Placing us in these factories. The reason why his business really grew is because he was actually hiring black motherfuckers. Okay. He was hiring all the black people. You feel me? And he won favor with our ancestors because they wasn't as advanced as we are now. So niggas thought like, okay, he's paying more, and you don't have to work all these days. Because you still have certain companies around the country that was making people work 7 days, 6 days. Ford came like this. We need to make these niggas think they free. Let's knock some more days off. And the way it was placed out there was, Will, you only have to work 5 days. In exchange, we'll give you more leisure time. So when our ancestors first started working, the only thing they thinking is this: shit, I worked them 5 days and I got 2 days to just relax. 2 days ain't shit, but if you working sun up to sundown every day, and then you go from that to 7 days, then down to 6 days, hell yeah, you like, shit, 5 days? Shit is, and you gonna pay more? The only thing he required was for you to work hard. In the beginning, he even used to dive deep into what was going on paternally, like going on at your house. You can read that up on Wikipedia too. All right, because I already closed the MacBook. We ain't got to look at it no more. I'm here with y'all. All right? But understand that the reality of it was a mind fuck, a chess move, okay? And it made black people believe, hey, we are equally we're getting treated like human beings finally, when we should have never wanted to be treated like human beings because we was never human. All right. So it was the first step in breaking us from our organic mode of being these gods and these ancient creators. Because see, when we was in physical shackles, we didn't want half of nothing. It was all or nothing. And that's why they had to kill us. Or some of the ones who didn't rebel, we just was fuck it. We just went all full into, we just slaves. We just accepted it. So when they came with the work, when Henry Ford came with his factory, opening it up to all these black people and Latino people, the gods, and giving us making us work lesser days and paying us a little more, he seemed like the fucking hero. When in reality, he was not. Right? Even if you read in Wikipedia about him, they tell you how he was against the Union. All right? He had hired a Navy SEAL boxer named like Brent Barrett or something. And this guy was the one that would go around and beat. He had a group of, basically like the mob. They was whooping motherfuckers' ass that didn't want to work at these jobs. And if you try to put together a union to try to fight for your equal rights, they was fucking y'all up too. I'll pull it up. Look, he was a whole thug. Henry Ford was a whole mobster. All right, then I'm going to go deeper about who he was. But check it out. Under labor unions, under Henry Ford on Wikipedia, it clearly says, Ford was adamantly against labor unions. Now, for those who didn't work jobs before, you know that unions is everything for you, right? Because the companies treat you like shit. So the union is basically all the workers that actually work for the company coming together to protect the workers' rights. That would be no different than us. We forming the union in the country right now. Like, we the motherfucking citizens, or so they say. We the people doing all the work, paying all the taxes. This country don't run without us. But yet, y'all run over a motherfucker. Why? Because the people don't have a union. So that's why at jobs had these unions, labor unions. But in the beginning, the first labor union was made under Ford and Ford Motor Company. And Henry Ford was against the shit because he was about separating individuals and draining everybody of their life force and completely dominating them. It was all about, like he said, productivity. They was trying to create as many cars and as many factories as they could. Why? Because these factories help do what to the planet? Kill it. What does it do? What does it do to the hydrogen? It erodes it out. All right. So all these factories being built affected us. Then they start making the cars pumping out all these toxins into the air as well that we don't need. Then it made us lazy. They put you inside a car with 4 glass windows and metal, which was further going to be designed for us to drive down the road anyway. You get what I'm saying? Because they didn't want us around nothing pertaining to nature. You don't need a car to travel. Before we was using our energy to travel. Remember I told you McCurbers. So this was all a part of taking us into that next level of slavery so that they can further take the shackles off us, because now they got niggas' minds, souls, and spirits. All right? So although he was disguised as a person that was doing so much for us and for the job, like, we didn't need no jobs. Think about it. Why the fuck do we need to work in a factories which are designed to kill off our nature, our wildlife, and us? So no matter where you work, medical field, sports, entertainment, you become a rapper, you sell drugs, you go work at Burger King, you go work at retail, all these companies are against us. Yeah, we buy shoes, but we don't think about how many kids they kill and enslave to make the motherfucking shoes and these clothes that we don't even need. We buy food, but they poison in that. We buy water, they poison in that. We go work in the medical field, they train you to poison your people. It's not a job you can name that is not designed to kill us. That's the end goal of every major Fortune 500 company. It's to kill us. Okay? So as you can see that clearly, you can see what the fuck a job is. That's why I said that's a form of selling your soul. We basically I'm going to sell. Okay, that's like when I worked at Burger King, McDonald's. I sold all this badass poison meat to my people for a check. That's no different than me when I sold drugs in the streets of Chicago. I sold crack and dope and heroin to my people before for money. I robbed my own people before for money. Right? So that made me a cancer to my people. But if I went to work at Foot Locker and sold gym shoes, I was still a cancer to my people, because we don't need shoes neither. We don't need these. We don't need these. This hurts us. But yet we've been trained to wear it. Rubber soles. Rubber. Designed for your soul. Because that's what it affects the most. Your life force. Which is generated from your center of you, which is the plexus, your solar plexus. That's the center of your chakras, the center of you. Some people think it's the heart chakra, which sits above the solar plexus, but no. It's really your soul, because that's where all your energy comes from. It's coming from your soul. That's the sun of you. Along with the little mini universes and the little mini suns you got chromosomes. So I'm pointing out to point out it's not a job you can work that doesn't hurt your people or hurt your planet. All right? Now, let me tell you how evil this motherfucker was. Ford didn't want nobody to think for themselves. Henry Ford didn't. So what he did was he was against labor unions, right? He explained his views on unions in chapter 18 in his book called My Life of Work. He thought they were too heavily influenced by leaders who would end up doing more harm than good for workers, despite their ostensible good motives. So, key word to focus on. He thought they were too heavily influenced by leaders. He did not like leaders. A leader is what? A free thinker. That's what makes them him or her a leader, because they are not scared to think on their own. All right? Now let's keep going. Most of these leaders, he said, wanted to restrict productivity as a means to foster employment. All right? But Ford saw this as self-defeating because in his view, product was necessary for economic prosperity to exist. So Ford didn't give a fuck. He was like a slave master. He just want product to be made. He don't give a fuck how hard you got to work, what you got to do, how long you got to be in there. I need product and I need it now. That's no different than 40 years prior when motherfuckers was on the slave plantation and the slave master needed product. He needed cotton, he needed his tea, he needed his motherfucking coffee beans, all that. And he needed it now. Remember, the slaves had quota. See what I'm saying? 40 pounds of cotton a day. Some of them had to pick 60 based on your age. Now, you know how many cuts you gonna get on your fingers? How many times you gonna get pricked trying to pick 40 pounds of cotton in a field full of other individuals when the sun beaming on the back of your goddamn neck and you not in your natural element, sun up, sun down. That was the work back then, as sun up to sun down. Wasn't no breaks. Master came out there, threw a big ass keg of water in the thing, y'all took y'all little sips, y'all back at it. Cause see, back then, even they knew we don't require food to operate. They knew that then. That's why a lot of the slaves wasn't even eating like that. A lot of people think that the slaves wasn't eating like that, and when they did feed the slaves, they would feed their ass motherfucking the leftovers from the pig intestines, the pig nuts, the pig feet. You know, the bullshit, the shit they knew wasn't good. The worst part of the pig was left for us. The worst part of the meal was left for us. They didn't eat like that, yet we was strong, big, all that, because it was all sunlight and water. And remember, it's by the slaves being in the barnyard and the field all day, they out there eating plants, certain shrubs, leaves, and they know that. It's no different than putting a donkey out in the middle of the field. You ain't got to go out there and feed that donkey. You ain't got to go feed that horse. That horse is going to sustain itself. Sunlight, grass, and then get water from the soil, and the grass is chewing. And it's good to go. Hay, and it's good to go, right? The reason animals are so can sustain themselves off the basics like that is because they come from us, and that's how we anciently ate. So in slavery times, we really didn't eat like that. You know what I'm saying? And when we did eat, it was bullshit. Then once they seen they can get us to eat the bullshit, they kept pushing it and pushing it on us. And this is where all your soul food comes from today. All right, it's bad for your soul. It's not good for your soul. None of it is. All right? But that's imperative for you to know that so you can fully understand how he was operating. All right? And before Henry Ford Motor Company, this was the first major company to actually hire black folks. You got to think now. Motherfuckers slaves, fresh out of slavery. But guess what? You got these cities getting built, these factories getting built. We wanted to go club. They was pulling us into that life. Niggas ain't had the money to do it. So that's how they used the jobs, because it was like, okay, you niggas free now, but if you want to come in here, you're going to need this. Well, niggas ain't got that. Oh, well, look like your ass ain't going to be free again. Your ass you're going to have to work for it. So it's the same thing. But they made us think it was a mind fuck that niggas was free. And then they started making shit cost. But when we was slaves, physical, it was no money, nothing cost.